me
couple
just
people if
not
they're
think about this
interested.
for a while and do something else, and then never really came back to it. So that experience basically helped me realize that but I think it definitely is possible to care too much. And I think giving your brain a break and kind of doing some other things, you can actually get a lot of inspiration when you're not even thinking about the business. And if you're just constantly executing, a couple people if they're interested in kind of joining me on this venture, and everyone said no. And after that, I was kind
Hey guys, welcome to the Beyond the Business podcast. We got Aaron Faison with us, and we're just going to get right into it. Talk about winner mindset, entrepreneur spirit, millionaire secrets, as we talk to him, a co-founder over at There Woolly. But he's a podcaster of his own. He was a former lawyer, and he's out there in Detroit, from Detroit area. Going to be moving out to Washington, but we're going to welcome him to the stage. How's it going, Aaron Faison?
hey, how's it going?
Going good, going good. So, tell me, how's your day been?
It's good. I mean, I played 18 holes of golf today, which, I mean, it's a love and hate relationship with that game. So it was fun to be out there with friends, hit some good shots, but definitely some frustrating moments as well. So can't complain overall.
Golf, not mini golf.
Golf, yeah, golf.
I know as a child I did mini golf and I was like, this is golf. And then the older you get, you're like, oh wait, I don't really know how to golf.
Yeah, I would say golf is a little bit more difficult than mini golf. It's a little bit steeper of a learning curve.
Yeah, I like to say I'm a professional at mini golf, but I don't know like how I compare to everyone in the world. I just know if I compare with like my close friends and my family.
There are actually professional mini golfers. There's like a professional mini golf circuit out there.
Yeah, but if I join out, my confidence will be crushed.
Yeah, exactly.
100%, 100%. Our goal is pretty simple. We're just going to dive into your founder story, right? We're going to dive into your founder mindset and the mindset of an entrepreneur. But right at the bat, we're going to get into our short question answer section. So I have 10 questions. You can only answer 4 of them. So if you feel uncomfortable to answer, you can just skip, or you can be like reverse, and then I have to answer the question. Sounds good?
How many reverses do I get?
You get 3 reverses.
Okay, got it.
Okay. What's your thoughts on? I saw you were a soccer fan. You played soccer back in the background. What's your thoughts on the American soccer?
In terms of like the national team, or just kind of like the talent level in America?
Just like the state of American soccer.
I mean, I think America is almost always going to be better at other sports than soccer. It's not really. I mean, a ton of kids play it when they're 5, 6, 7, 8. But once you get older and older, a lot of people, they just don't seem to think it's as fun or exciting as a sport like football or basketball or something like that. So I'd be interested to see more and more kids playing it as they get older. And I think if that happened, then maybe we would be a bit better internationally. But I mean, the women's team is great, so maybe that's enough.
100%. When it comes to Nike, the company, I know you're starting your own shoe company. Do you have any reply to Nike? Any thoughts about Nike?
I mean, Nike is a great company. I'm not gonna trash them or anything like that. I mean, I wear Nike. My co-founder wears Nike. A ton of professional athletes wear Nike. They have really smart people working there. All that kind of stuff. But the way that we think about it, we're kind of serving a different target segment, right? So we're focusing specifically on kids who are just getting into sports. So around the age of 4 to 7. And we think that they have pretty unique needs that some of the bigger companies, I mean, they can't cater to every single specific segment, right? So they have these, I guess they think about it a bit more broadly, right? So they think about kids, they think about adults, they think about teens, whereas our whole company is focused on those kids who are just getting into sports, the fact that they want to play a lot of different sports. So trying to get them something that's durable, that works across different playing surfaces, different sports, and then also just incorporating anything we can into our business model to make it easier on parents as well. So, the way we think about it, we don't think we're going to replace Nike or anything like that. We just want to basically set kids up well when they're first starting out, and then once they get to a certain age, they'll graduate into a Nike, an Adidas, a shoe like that.
100%, 100%. And what I was saying is your shoes are like built for multiple sports. They're not just like the one set sport, right?
That's right. Yep.
I love that. I love that. When it comes to co-founding a company or starting a startup versus starting a franchise versus like buying a company, what's your thoughts about that?
I mean, I've tried to start a company by myself in the past, and I think I've talked about this before, but for me, it's just way harder because you don't really have anyone to hold you accountable. So if you run into a roadblock and you're solo, you can just put it off, right? You can put it off for a day, that turns into a week, into a couple weeks, into months, into maybe a year. And that was kind of the issue that I had when I first tried to do entrepreneurship. When I ran into an issue, I was like, this is hard. Let me just not think about this for a while and do something else. And then never really came back to it. So that experience basically helped me realize that I need at least one other person to help me when things get hard, or if they have a different skill set, a complementary skill set, things like that. And then also just to keep me accountable, right? So I can't really go to my co-founder and say, I haven't done anything because it's hard and I don't want to think about it. So I think for me, I just enjoy having a team around me. And I think it's kind of like, two heads are better than one. I think it's that kind of situation for me.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And then finally, branding and LinkedIn.
I'll do a reverse on that one.
Okay. I guess I think about branding is super important. Like branding is creating something that people care about. And I found that a lot of brands, they have people that don't really care about their brand, but it's like hard to figure out the balance between creating something that people care about. Because obviously that's business, right? You can't just be yourself. You have to make people understand the purpose of your brand and understand why it is.
Yep.
I don't know if I love the current state of LinkedIn, but
what don't you like about it?
I don't. I think it just all seems very fake. But maybe that's just the current state of all social media at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of want to. I know I said I did a reverse, but I kind of want to answer this question too.
Okay.
I think a mistake that some people make on LinkedIn is they think people care about hearing from brands or companies, right? So they go on their company page and then they start basically making these posts where they're maybe just putting out a very specific point of view. So if they're a tax company or they do something related to taxes, maybe they just put out, information related to taxes, or maybe they comment on certain regulation or legislation that they think is going to affect taxes. And I honestly don't think people on social media care at all about that. Really, what they care about is hearing interesting things from interesting people. So I think if you want to build a brand on LinkedIn, you should build your personal brand. You shouldn't try to build up your company page, because nobody really cares about that. And if the company shuts down, nobody's going to really remember who you are. Whereas if you build your personal brand, you could take that with you anywhere. And I agree with you also that it's kind of fake. A lot of people are on LinkedIn basically just trying to make themselves look good and brag and, talk about all these things that they're accomplishing. And I think it's way more interesting to just, like I said before, try to say interesting things or bring up interesting topics and allow people to comment on that and have interesting conversations. Because again, like you said, there's a lot of fake people on social media, and if you're genuine, that's really going to stand out.
I love that. I love that. Going into the long form part of our podcast, I think a lot of the previous internet, right? 2015, 2017, 2018. And there were no like for certain styles. There are like people that were doing different styles. Even on YouTube, you can look at YouTube as an example. It's like, okay, there's a blog and there's this and there's this. But I've seen a lot of people just copy each other because it's like that's what the algorithm favors and like that's what works, right?
Yep.
That's why I say more like, hey, this is really fake. You're just not. It's less creative.
Yeah.
Like, the point was to be creative in the beginning.
Yeah, you see a lot of people with playbooks, right? So maybe they got successful doing a certain thing, so short form video, or like you said, vlog, something like that. And then they put out their playbook, they try to monetize it, right? So maybe they put it behind a paywall, maybe they do some type of newsletter, and then you have hundreds, maybe even thousands of people who are using this exact same playbook. And then, I mean, it looks super fake, it's super generic. So I think if you want to be successful on social media or just in general, you have to be yourself, because that's the easiest way to be unique. You're not going to be unique by just buying someone's playbook and following it to a T, because anyone can do that. So I think that's really the thing that sets apart the people I like following on social media versus the people where I'm kind of like blocking their content or saying, don't recommend this in my feed again, stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Going from social media back to business, I want to ask you, we'll get back into social media when I talk about, hey, building a brand online, building a brand in public. But I want to talk a little bit about the entrepreneurial journey. Because I feel like beginning founders think it's going to be quick, or they think it's going to be simple. When I found, at least I own my own insurance business, and it's been a long process just to get the first clients and lose clients and find new clients and like build a team and lose a team and build another team. So I want to ask you, what's your entrepreneurial journey, and what do you think early founders should know about?
I think you're right. It takes way longer than you think. It's harder than you think it's going to be. It costs more money. It's way more kind of like mentally taxing than you think it's going to be. It's just everything kind of like negative. It's more of that than you realize. But I would say the positives are also, if you're really kind of like an entrepreneur, the positives are more positive than you think either. So I think for me, it's really rewarding to be able to like see something that was just a vision in my head and kind of like see a physical product and say like that was the culmination of hundreds or thousands of hours of work. So I think that's really cool, and that's something that's that you don't really realize how fun that's going to be and how rewarding that is until you actually, for me, like a physical product that I can hold in my hands. But if you have maybe a different business, like getting that first client, seeing that money come into your bank account, things like that. But I mean, our journey has been like 2.5 years at this point in time, and we still haven't launched our company. So it took us a really long time to find a designer. It took us a long time to find a factory. It took us a long time to find basically everyone we needed to. It's taking us. We're trying to redesign our website right now, and that's taking us kind of longer than we anticipated as well. So I think in terms of, you talked about mindset a little bit. I think you just have to be very resilient, because there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, and you don't necessarily know when they're going to be coming. And a lot of times the downs come right after pretty high ups. So I think just trying to find things outside of your business life to keep you grounded and more steady. So if that's like exercise, hanging out with friends, talking to family, hobbies, I think it's important to continue to do those things, because as an entrepreneur, you can easily just like work all day and say, I'm not going to do any hobbies. I'm not going to really do anything but work because that's what my business requires. But if you do that, then I think you almost care too much. And if you care too much, then I think you start making mistakes, you start getting burnt out, all those kinds of things.
And have you seen that in your business, like caring too much and not being able to balance it?
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I was in grad school until about a year ago. So the first 2 or so years of the company, in terms of like, coming together with my co-founder, until we graduated, like that was like 18 months to 2 years. And we were kind of like spending more time on the company than we were on school. And we were getting 2 degrees, a JD and an MBA. And doing that plus starting a business was just a lot. So there are definitely times where I really wasn't sleeping that much. I had like no free time. I wasn't seeing my friends. I wasn't talking to family that much. And I think when you spend so much time thinking about your business, for me at least, it stresses me out more. So
Mhm.
I'm like, the stakes are higher because I'm working, every minute on this business. And then you feel more pressure. And then maybe in certain areas where you need to be patient, you start rushing, and then maybe you go down a path that you shouldn't have, and you would have known not to go down that path if you had just spent a little bit more time, maybe like talking to a mentor or interviewing some customers or just maybe like doing a reference check on a certain kind of like partner, things like that. So I think maybe it's just me, but I think it definitely is possible to care too much. And I think giving your brain a break and kind of doing some other things, you can actually get a lot of inspiration when you're not even thinking about the business. And if you're just constantly executing, then you don't give yourself the space to really dream and kind of have some of those eureka moments.
I love that. I love that. And then when it comes to the dream and why shoes?
So both me and my co-founder, we played. You see the soccer ball
Yeah.
behind me. We both played sports from a very young age and loved them. They're a huge part of our identity when we were younger, and we both ended up, playing all the way throughout college, and we still do it, for fun, just because we enjoy sports. And my co-founder, he's a dad of two young daughters,
Mhm.
so we were thinking about ideas just generally in the sports space. And we first started out with this idea for shoes for former competitive athletes. So people in their late 20s, early 30s, maybe even 40s who had played sports competitively when they were younger, but now their needs are a bit different. So we were thinking about creating a company for people like that. We interviewed a bunch of people, we ran surveys, and realized that maybe that would probably be a pretty tough space to get into. And then we heard from a lot of parents that based on the different attributes we were describing, they would like to see that in the kids shoe market. And they were saying that, there's issues with kids shoes. They're not very durable. Basically they want one shoe that works for everything, and it's just a hassle to buy all these different shoes, keep up with all these different shoes. And then
Mhm.
that's really when we kind of saw that there was a gap in the market. And both me and my co-founder, we both, had such positive experiences with sports as kids. And we want to make sure that as many kids can have those same experiences as us, and that equipment is not going to be a barrier. So shoes was an easy place to start, but basically if we're successful with the shoes, any other types of equipment that we can basically allow kids to use across multiple different, sports activities, occasions, to save their parents money and allow the kids to engage in more sports and have more fun, then that's a product we're interested in creating as well.
Is that the mission and the purpose? Just help
Yep.
parents save money and
Y Yeah, I
get
would say it's to help kids have more fun, get active and have more fun,
yeah.
and then to, make parents' lives easier and enable their kids to be active, have fun.
I love that. I love that. I love that. And then when it comes to um business, my business, your business, just businesses in general, you have to like build a team and you have to find employees and co-founders and stuff. Because you talked about before how it's like, hey, you ran businesses, but you didn't really have a co-founder, and there's like advantages for a co-founder. And I know you met your co-founder. I was reading on LinkedIn. You met your co-founder at school, and you're just like there. How did he become the co-founder, and like what was the process behind that, or was it just more natural?
It was pretty natural. So, when I started grad school, I knew that I was interested in pursuing entrepreneurship, or at least kinda, like, testing different ideas out while I was in school. And
Mhm.
my first year was super busy, so I didn't really do anything during the first year. And then the second year, there was this program that's basically, it's basically like a group of students who have ideas, and they wanna start companies, but it's just an idea. And it's a forum where the they're not really teachers, but we'll just call them teachers, where the teachers kinda, like, walk you through a framework of how to actually test your idea and see if it's viable, and if it's not, then how to pivot, when to decide, or how to decide if you just shouldn't go after the idea, things like that. So I was really interested in doing that program, and I
Mhm.
had that initial idea I talked about before of a
Yeah.
shoe company for former competitive athletes, and I just kinda, like, talked to probably 5 to 10 classmates asking if they'd be interested in doing that program with me, and my co-founder was the only one who said yes. So it started off as us just doing, like, an after school or after class program at school, and we decided to pivot after doing that and continue to test. And we got enough positive feedback from it that we decided to just go ahead and incorporate and become co-founders and formalize that relationship. But when we
Mhm.
first came together, it wasn't like me saying, hey, I need a co-founder. It was more like, I just want someone who's interested in entrepreneurship to test this idea with me. And then if it works, it works. If not, then maybe we'll test the next idea.
I love that. I love that. And do you have advice for people that maybe are in the same shoes as you were? Like, hey, interested in entrepreneurship in school, trying to find people that are like also interested in entrepreneurship?
I would say just be as open as possible about it, and don't be afraid of getting rejected. Because I remember I went through the same process in college of, I had this idea and I asked a couple people, but really I
Mhm.
was forced to do it through a class. Ask a couple people if they're interested in kind of joining me on this venture, and everyone said no. And after that, I was kind of like, you know what, I'm going to stop asking people and I'm just going to do it myself. And in grad school, I was a little bit more like, I knew that I needed a co-founder, so I
Mhm.
wasn't necessarily afraid of getting rejected. So I think, you know, a lot of people are going to say no. A lot of people are not interested in entrepreneurship. A lot of people are probably not going to be passionate about your idea. And I think it's actually a good thing, because you want to be super selective about who you have as a co-founder. So you want to make sure that they actually are passionate, that there's, a skill set kind of like overlap, or, that your skill sets complement each other, that you enjoy working with each other, all that kind of stuff. So when you think about that, it actually does really narrow the pool. And then
Mhm.
that kind of gets into the second point that I would say, which is just be super open about kind of what you're doing and what you're looking for. So don't be afraid to bring it up to friends, to family, post it on social media, because you never know who's out there kind of like reading your posts that might be interested in joining you, or who they might know. And sometimes it's even like some of my close friends, be talking to them about my business, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I know someone who can help you out. Like, let me connect you," that kind of stuff. So if you never talk about your business, if you never ask for anything or let people know that you need help, then they're not going to be able to help you out. So I'd say definitely be open about what you're doing and what you need.
I love that. I love that. So I want you to break down just my final question, and then I'll ask you about books. But can you break down the startup phases and like maybe what you learned about running a startup these last couple of years?
So, I mean, there's definitely the kind of like idea stage,
Yeah.
which, you're still figuring out whether your idea even makes any sense. I think at that stage, don't let your ego get in the way. That's the thing that I learned, because, so if you have an idea and you think it's a good idea, it's easy to, when someone criticizes it, to just say they don't know what they're talking about, or they're a critic. People who are critical never actually do anything or create anything. But try to listen and see if there's any truth in what they're saying. Use it as motivation, and understand that if one person is going to say it, then probably multiple people are going to say it. So try to create, either explain in your mind why they're wrong, or come up with some kind of answer to that kind of person, right? So a lot of people ask us, how are you guys different than Nike? Or they might
Mhm.
say, you're not different than Nike at all. And I talked through some of the differentiation before, but I think earlier on in the process, we were basically trying to do exactly what Nike is doing. So I think that definitely helped us. Early stages of building the business, so kind of like pre-sales, while you're still trying to get a product made. I think the thing I learned there is how important it is to have a team, like a really good team around you, because we could have gotten like a bad team around us and still gotten a product to the market, but it would have been not differentiated at all. It would have been basically the exact same as every other product on the market, and probably even like lower quality than some of the better products on the market. I think when you're actually developing the product, the thing that I realized is how important differentiation is, because that's always the first thing that people ask about. If you have a product and you're trying to sell it to someone, and they know a product that's similar, almost always they're going to kind of like come up with some product in their head and say, how is this different from fill in the blank? So for us, it's how are you different from Nike? For a potato chip company, I saw someone say they're always compared to Pringles. And you can kind of think of other examples as well, but having a really good answer to that is definitely important. And then for us right now, where we're just kind of like waiting to launch the company. I think generating buzz is important, or it's something that I learned that it's a lot of work to kind of like build a bit of a following and build some buzz around your brand and your launch before you've even sold any products. But I think it's definitely worthwhile. I think with all the things you can do now on the internet with LinkedIn, YouTube, having a podcast, there's really no excuse for launching a product and no one ever having heard of you. So I mean, we talked a little bit about how long the entrepreneurial journey can be. So make use of that. If you have a year, if you have 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is, during that time, start building the brand, start getting on the radar of maybe like suppliers, potential customers, just people in your network, because it can't, it never hurts to build up that brand before you really launch, because you're going to have to build it up anyway. So why not get a head start?
I love that. I love that. I love that. So obviously, it's been a long journey. When it comes to throwing the towel, has that ever crossed your mind, or what do you do about that?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has crossed my mind, especially because we've had people recommend that we do that, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have probably heard that either from family, friends, strangers. They just say, hey, throw in the towel. It's admirable what you guys are doing, but it's not going to work. Don't waste your money. Just, you know, keep your job, keep your day job, and wait until the next idea that I guess is better comes along. So, I mean, I've been forced to think about that for sure. And I think just naturally, if you're a logical and rational person and things aren't going well, you're going to think about it, right?
Yeah.
So it's come across my mind from time to time, but I still have confidence in the idea. My co-founder still has confidence in the idea. It's not like we've spent, $500,000 on the business or whatever. We're still willing to continue. We're willing to continue to put money into the business. And when it comes to the point where we can't anymore, where we're just like, that's too much, then it becomes a real conversation of whether we need to shut down the business or take a pause, things like that. But we're enjoying it. We're learning a lot. We're still passionate about it. We still believe in the idea, and we still have enough money to put into it. So when all those things are the case, there's no reason to stop.
I love that. I love that. And where do you get the money? Like, how do you find investors? Is it your personal money?
Right now, just personal money. Yeah, we've had some preliminary conversations with investors, but basically the plan is to put our own money into it, finalize the shoe, and then launch on Kickstarter. And hopefully that will cover the initial production run. And then from there, either kind of like continually break even or lose a little bit of money until we reach scale where then we become profitable. So, I mean, in a perfect world, we would be kind of like bootstrapped the entire time,
Mhm.
but there might come a point in time where it's not feasible. And at that point, we would decide to raise.
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds good. So before we end, do you have any thoughts about entrepreneurship? Anything about startups? Anything about business mindset?
I mean, I think entrepreneurship, it's both easy and it's hard. I think anyone who wants to do it can do it. I think passion is one of the most important things. There's a ton of skills that will help you with entrepreneurship, but at the same time, the best way to become a better entrepreneur is to be an entrepreneur. So if you want to be a better entrepreneur tomorrow, you should be an entrepreneur today. So I think a lot of people, they view it as, oh, I have to quit my job and be a full-time entrepreneur. But there's a ton of entrepreneurial ventures you can do in 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week, 20 hours a week, whatever it is. And if you do that now and you do it for like 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, then when you do want to make that leap, or if you do want to do something entrepreneurial in the future, it'll be so much easier because you already have that skill set. So I would say if you're interested in entrepreneurship, just go after it and do it in a way that makes sense for you in terms of time, money, all that kind of stuff. Because it's fun, and once you get a taste of it and you like it, you're gonna want to continue to do it.
I love that. I love that. And where can people find you before we end this off?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Aaron N. Faison. You can find me on. So we have a podcast, Worldly Unboxed. We have a YouTube channel, Worldly Unboxed, as well. And then you could go to our website, worldybrand.com, and sign up for updates as we approach launch.
I love that. I love that. So before we end, I'm going to ask you the final encyclopedia millionaire secret. What's your millionaire secret?
What I would say is the best investment you can make is an investment into yourself. So for me, I care a lot about education, which is why I got both my JD and my MBA. Other people might care about other things. They might invest in their physical health. They might, lift weights 5 times a week and do, I don't know, yoga on the weekends, things like that. But I would say, we talk a lot about investments in terms of things like cars are kind of like bad investments, but, homes, stocks, things like that. But don't forget about investing in yourself because it pays a ton of dividends.
I love that. I love that. I love that. Thank you for hopping on the pod. And I
Yeah,
hope you guys like the episode. Let's
yeah, thanks for having me on.
100%.